All right, guys, welcome everyone. Kicking it with Crowder. I'm your host, Tyler Crowder, and I am joined today by my friend Anthony K. Man, Anthony, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing well, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for asking. So, me and Anthony, we're part of the Worst Take Network. We've done some shows together, but today we're gonna bring you our wild card picks for this weekend, guys. So we have a full slate, man. Anthony, super wild card Saturday and super wild card Sunday. So 6 games, not 4 this year. We got 6 games, and I know your Bears are playing Sunday. We'll get to that in here in just a little bit. But I'm going to start with our 1 o'clock games, man. So we got Colts and Bills. Colts at the Bills. Colts a 7 seed. Bills the 2 seed. Coming off a 13-3 record. Josh Allen, probably top 5 MVP candidate this year. Who do you like in the game, Anthony? And tell me some reasons why.
This one's a tough one because as much as through the regular season, it would be pretty easy to just say, hey, it's the Bills.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got a couple of things working against the Bills in the sense that Josh Allen, right? We haven't really seen him in the playoffs. And we know, we saw last year with Lamar Jackson, you can have a great regular season, but as a young quarterback, can you take the pressure of that first playoff game? So I think that's kind of one thing I'm worried about. Their offense looked great this year. Stephon Diggs, I think, was a huge addition, obviously. And on the other side of the ball, and this is where I'm kind of torn because the Colts look good. Their quarterback, right? Or sorry, their head coach, former Bills quarterback, right? So there's some ties there, but there's always this thing, and I don't know if it's real or not. There's just always something about Phillip Rivers that I feel late in the game, right? He's going to throw a pick. He's going to fumble. He's going to do something that costs him the game. So it makes it hard for me to pick the Colts. So that's why I'm going with the Bills. So I think they get
I'm with
through
you
that.
on the Bills. I'm totally with you on the Bills, and we'll go to against the spread pick here in a second. So you're saying you think it'll be a close game. You just think maybe at the end the Bills kind of find a way to make a play versus Phillip Rivers, who's never been to a Super Bowl, never won a Super Bowl. And, like you said, man, the Bills offense right now, Stephon Diggs, he's amazing. That was probably the best acquisition of the entire offseason. And a bunch of fantasy people, I think, made a lot of mistakes not drafting Stephon Diggs a little higher. If you were able to get Stephon Diggs a little later in your fantasy draft, you probably did pretty good. So I really think that Sean McDermott has done well with this team. I really like Sean McDermott. He's a good coach. And I'm with you on this. I think first home game in Bills, in 20 years. So I think they're going to be, the 7,000 fans that will be allowed at the stadium. It'll sound like 70,000, but it'll just be 7,000 rowdy Bills Mafia fans. So I feel like that is an advantage. Some of these games aren't going to have fans at all. So even though you have 7,000, I think that ties into it. So I'm with you on the Bills. What about the spread? Who do you think, for betting Vegas purposes? The spread is 6.5. So Buffalo's 6.5 favorites over Indianapolis, who has a good defense. You sounded like you may be leaning towards the Colts on this one. What do you think?
Well, it's funny that it's 6.5 because I do have the Bills by a touchdown. Okay. And the reason I have them by a touchdown, it's going to feel like it was more, but I think they're going to have some first quarter jitters, right? Yeah. And I think that will keep it close. And I think, maybe the Colts third quarter is going to be the big one. If Josh Allen can get through a difficult third quarter, I think it might be more than 7, but I have it a 7-point game by touchdown. So I'm going to go with the Bills covering.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that. I'm actually going Bills 31-21 over the Colts. I think Colts may be just a quarterback and maybe, a young wide receiver, getting one of these top wide receivers in the draft next year. I think they're close. DeForest Buckner coming in, that defense has been a huge help. Colts are close. They got Darius Leonard. They got some nice pieces. If they're able to add a free agent quarterback or maybe draft a guy or maybe land a Deshaun Watson, not saying that they would trade him inside the division, but man, can you imagine Deshaun Watson on that Indianapolis team?
All right, let's take a time out there for a second because we're already talking about the Colts offseason like they've lost. I will say this. I think you're right. I think there's a quarterback that needs to come in, and no disrespect to Phillip Rivers. However, I got my eye on Deshaun Watson going somewhere else. So, but that's for personal reasons.
We'll get into that another time. So, hey, they missed on him once. Can they get him this time? So, hey, I feel you on that. So, hey, me and Anthony, guys, we're both on the Bills to win the game, both on the Bills to cover the 6.5. All right, so we're moving on to the Rams-Seahawks NFC West matchup. These teams split during the regular season. This comes down to quarterback for me. Is Jared Goff, he's coming off the thumb injury. What is he going to be able to do? He's played better on the road at home, which is always weird to me when players do that. But the Seahawks sit at 3.5-point favorite. But just straight up right now, what do you think about this game? This is an intriguing game to me.
So this is one that I've already gotten a lot of slack for because look, there's nothing really statistically that says this is true. And when you look at analytics, you're going to say, what are you talking about? However, there's something about the Rams going to Seattle that they always seem to find a way to win.
Yeah.
And there's a big caveat here. If Goff is healthy and playing, okay?
Yeah.
If he's healthy, I got the Rams. Upsetting the Seahawks. And because although their defense has played better and their offense has kind of been up and down this season, I just think that defensive front of the Rams is going to put a lot of pressure on them. They're not going to be able to get Chris Carson going, I don't think. And I think the Rams squeak out a close one, but I got the Rams.
So you're taking Rams in the game. So you're obviously taking Rams with the 3.5 points.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you're rolling with the Rams. This was a tough for me against the spread, but for straight up purposes, I feel like Seattle's defense has gotten better. That they were just terrible at the first 8 games of the season. Pete Carroll's done a heck of a job with this team the last 8 games. Jamal Adams, what has he got? 9.5, 10 sacks as a safety. That's just insane. If they're able to stop the Rams' run game, that's the real matchup for me. If Seattle's run defense can stop the Rams defense, and if maybe John Wolford, who their backup quarterback, they're going to throw the kitchen sink at him if he's the quarterback. Jared Goff, I think, he's able to do some things. Sean McVay's able to get some pre-snap motion. He's able to generate, some first downs and things like that based off the way he calls the game. He's one of the best out there, Sean McVay. I really like him, but this is all about Russell Wilson for me. Russell Wilson, what are you going to do when it's come playoff time? He normally makes a lot of plays outside the pocket. This Rams defense is very good. They have, probably the best defensive tackle, defensive end in Aaron Donald, the best corner in Jalen Ramsey. So you go away from those guys. You double team Donald, and you try to throw away from, if Ramsey follows Metcalf, lock it. It is a huge key for me in this game. It's going to be tough for me to do this. I was thinking Rams 3.5, but I'm laying the 3.5 points for the Seahawks. I'm going Seahawks not only straight up, but with the points. I think it's going to be a very close game, 27-20, 24-20 type game. And I'm with you. I understand all the reasons you're taking the Rams on this one.
It's very, very hard for me, right? Like normally, and that's why I say it was very hard for me, because typically when I look at a game like this, especially a division game, I'm looking at the home team. I'm looking at who has the better quarterback play. And I'm going against both of those things, right? Because Seattle does have the better quarterback play and they're at home. There's just something about the Rams in Seattle. So now, if Goff doesn't play, I hate to be on the fence here, but if Goff doesn't play, then completely flip. Seattle in, 10, 14 point kind of easy win. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going right now if Goff doesn't play. I mean, I just don't think – I think that Wolford, he played decent last week in a game they had to win. And, Goff hasn't played that well anyways this season, so it's not like you're missing an MVP candidate.
I know.
He struggled a little bit. So I'm with we split on this one. You like the Rams, I like the Seahawks. But, this is contingent on who plays. So I'm with you. Totally agree with you on the points we made. And should be a good one. Even though the Seattle crowd won't be in it, you're still having to go to Seattle. It's still a home game per se. The weather, watch out for the weather. You never know with Seattle. So that's something else to watch for. All right, so the last game of Saturday. And, of course, guys, kicking it with Crowder. I'm Tyler Crowder, Anthony K, guys, if you're just joining. So Bucks, Washington. This is an intriguing game for me. And I'm going to give a couple reasons. So Washington, and not many people are going to pick Washington to win the game. I understand that. Tom Brady, Buccaneers. But here's where it's interesting to me. Plus 8 points, okay? Versus they're basically favored by 8. This Washington defense is very good. They're underrated. A lot of people don't know they're top 10 in pass rush. They're top 10 against the pass. Chase Young, actively saying last week he wants Tom Brady. I think he's going to get to Brady once, maybe twice in this game. I think that's a big matchup to watch out for. Chase Young and this defensive line, all these first-round picks. versus this Bucs O-line who has lost some starters throughout the season. Tom Brady, not very mobile quarterback, can't really get outside the pocket. Think he's going to get sacked some. Ron Rivera is going to come up with a good game plan versus Tom Brady. I really like Washington. Not with the game. I'm going to go Tampa Bay on the game, but I'm going like 2017. I really think Washington can hang around with these guys. If they lose by a touchdown, they still cover. That's in playoff football. I mean, 8 points is a lot. I know your Bears are, they're 10-point dogs. We'll talk about that here in just a second. But Washington +8. What do you think about the points? And you think Brady's got the win in this one?
So I think you brought up a lot of the good points that I was going to talk about. This Washington defense is underrated, and I think they're underrated because people are looking at the beginning part of the season where the entire NFC East couldn't, win a game. And it makes their record look really worse than what the capabilities are of this team. I love that defense. I love Chase Young calling out Brady. I think that was a very bold move. I loved him in the draft. I think the Bengals should have taken him first. Like, I love Chase Young. Yeah. However, they do have the recipe, right? When you've seen Brady struggle and lose games, it's always to teams that have a defense that get after him. Right? The Giants in the Super Bowl a couple of times, even the Eagles, even during the regular season. If you can get to Tom Brady, it's not the same Tom Brady. So they've got the pieces to do that. That being said, I don't think Washington has a chance in this game. I think it's a blowout. I think it's at least a 14, 17-point win so I've got the Bucs. I've got the Bucs covering. I'm like a 32-17 kind of game. Like, I think this is not an easy win. I think there's going to be you're going to look at the first half and go, ooh, but I think by the time the game's done, it's an easy win. There's too many weapons for Tom Brady and the Bucs defense, right? This is the other part. The Bucs defense aren't that bad, and they're going up against a bit of a hobbled Alex Smith, right? So I'm not really concerned with the Washington offense as much either. So I don't think they're going to be able to keep Tampa off the field long enough to let that defense really, I think they're going to start getting tired midway through that third, fourth, because I think they're going to be on the field a lot.
And Washington's going to have to sustain some long drives, like you said. I really feel like they're going to have to keep the ball away from Tom Brady to cover the spread. I think they just keep it close enough. I'm with you. I like Tampa Bay in the game, but I think Washington sticks around long enough to possibly maybe get a backdoor late touchdown. Garbage points matter, people. Garbage points matter at the end of the game, only for spread purposes. So I'm going, Washington with the +8. But so here we go. We agree with the Bills -6.5. We both like the Bills in the game. We're split on the Seahawks Rams. You like Seahawks. I like the Seahawks -3.5. You like the Rams +3.5. And we split on the Bucs Washington. You like Tampa -8. I like Washington +8. So we'll move to the Sunday games, guys. And the Sunday games, this is the best game. I cannot wait till 1 o'clock on Sunday. Tennessee Titans, home dogs against a Ravens team who got hot at the end of the season. I like this Baltimore Ravens team. I just don't know if I like them more than Tennessee Titans. I want to hear who you like in this game, and I'll give you the spread. The spread 3.5. So Ravens are favored 3.5 over a good Titans team. What do you think there, Anthony?
This is, for me, the premier matchup of the weekend. And I'm a Bears fan. My Bears are playing. Yep. I'm still more keyed in on this Baltimore-Tennessee game because it's a tale of two teams, right, in Baltimore. The team that started the season that we didn't know who they were, to the team that ended the season where Lamar Jackson started to look like his old self again. That defense started to play a little bit better. And so Baltimore's really, hitting their stride at the right time. That being said, we haven't made enough noise about Derrick Henry and 2,000 yards. And there are, I believe, two people who have ever done that in the history of the NFL. And we're not talking about him enough as an MVP. We're not talking about enough what he brings to that offense, because when you have a running back like that sets up play action for Tannehill, who, I'll be honest, surprised me this year. I said that was a bad contract. They should have signed him. And what does he do? He goes and has another phenomenal year. He's got weapons on the outside in A.J. Brown and Corey Davis. I'm all in on the Titans in a close one. But if they're the dogs, then obviously I'm taking them. I'm taking them with the 3.5. I think Derrick Henry is that's the piece that they're not going to be able to stop him. You have a better chance against him later on in the playoffs. I hate to play him in the first round. So unfortunately for Baltimore,
Yeah, and I'm totally with you. I agree on both things. I'm taking Titans in this game. I'm talking 28-27. I mean, I
Yeah,
think it's going
close.
to
Yeah,
be
for
a
sure.
close game. So I'm going to take the 3.5 with you, and I'm going to go Titans overall. And you said it, play action. That's what this team identity is. Not just Derrick Henry running the football. Derrick Henry running the football sets up their entire offense. When Tannehill comes off play action, what he's able to do with outside of the pocket and booting it, and also, dumping it off to the tight ends or creating a long play to AJ Brown, they were really able to open up this team. So if Baltimore can stop Derrick Henry, which most teams cannot stop Derrick Henry,
Yeah.
he's the best running back in the game right now. If they were able to stop him, I think Baltimore can definitely win the game. But I mean, I think you have to keep him under 75, 80 yards for that to happen. Don't see that happening. I think Henry goes for, maybe over 100 and a touchdown. But the key to me is play action. And also the Titans defense versus Lamar Jackson throwing the ball. Titans gave up 30 passing touchdowns this year to wide receivers. That is unheard of for a team who makes the playoffs. So, I'm really interested to see if they're able to make plays outside of Mark Andrews, Lamar Jackson. What are they able to do? Hollywood Brown. If he's able to get involved, he goes for a big game. Maybe Ravens win, but man, Titans win last year against the Ravens. They win this year against the Ravens. I'm not sure how this is a 3.5 point game. Maybe the fans, if it was the fans were there, maybe it'd be even, but I just see, I would see this as the Titans maybe favored 1 or 2 versus
Yeah, that
being,
would have made
3 point.
more sense to me, right? Like if the Titans
Yeah.
were 1 or 2 point favorites at home, that
Yeah.
would have made sense to me because again, you have to put so much energy into stopping Derrick Henry. And so if there was an inability to throw the ball downfield, I'd say, okay, all you got to do is load up the box, stop Derrick Henry, you have a shot. But
Yeah, he can still throw it.
But they still throw the deep ball. And like you said, and I said, that play action, right? That fake to Derrick Henry, and they've done such a good job this season. It's going to bring all the linebackers up. It's going to bring the safeties up, and then they're able to hit, like I said, Corey Davis and AJ Brown. I think it's enough to get the win. And the downside of this is you got a great quarterback in Lamar Jackson, who people are going to start asking some questions about. Losing a couple of playoff games here,
Yeah.
and that's unfortunate because I don't think it's deserved.
Yeah, and Lamar Jackson, he's 0-2 in the playoffs, hoping not to go 0-3. Peyton Manning, of course, started 0-3 in his playoff career. So that's something to watch out for right there. So I like the Titans, but I would not be surprised, if I think the Titans are going to cover regardless. If the Ravens do win, they squeak one out, maybe
Right.
a Justin Tucker late field goal, something like that. All right, so I'm going Bears Saints right here. Now, I know you're excited. Anthony, guys, is a Bears fan. So I want to hear a little bit about what you think, because you watch this Bears team more than me. I do watch them. I know they have a great defense. I know David Montgomery has really picked it up the last 6-7 weeks. He's a very good running back. I was kind of wondering about him earlier in the season. He took off later in the season. But Trubisky, let's not forget, Bears went into overtime with the Saints earlier in the season. So that's big for me. I keep that in play. Bears are 10-point underdogs in this game. That's a lot of points. So I'm sure you're probably going to take the Bears with the points. Do you think the Bears can pull the upset?
So I am programmed to pick the Bears. I said this to someone today. Yeah. I haven't picked against the Bears since 1982. So I'm really however, that being said, you said something interesting. You said the Bears defense. The Bears defense, though, ranks 22nd against 12th against the pass, 15th against the rush. The Saints defense ranks 5th against the pass and 4th against the rush. The Saints have actually statistically done better than the Bears defense this year, which is a huge surprise.
Yeah.
To your point about the overtime win, they were coming off, I think they were 5-2 at that point. They had just lost their game to the Rams, and then they took them to overtime. And that's a typical game, I think, what we're going to see. So let me start kind of in reverse order. I'm definitely taking the Bears with the 10 points. I think it's going to be it's within 10. However, there's too many weapons on that Saints team, right, to realistically pick the Bears to win this game. Yes, Montgomery, Montgomery has picked up. A lot of that has to do with they weren't even calling his number the first 10 weeks of the season. Once Bill Lazor took over calling the plays, and with the Foles injury, right, they didn't want to bring Trubisky back in, but they did because of the injury. And Trubisky is a better suited quarterback. Let me make sure I'm clear on that. I'm not saying he's a better suited quarterback for what they want to do
offense.
because when he's in, they want to run the ball more, right? To give him a break. And then what they do from that is play action passing, like we talked about with Tennessee. They also are able to roll Trubisky out, which he's actually very mobile, but they don't use him that way enough. So I think, the problem is going to be, look, Trubisky's going to make a mistake. He's going to throw a pick late in the game, and that's going to cost them, right? If Montgomery has stepped up, he's had a couple of 100 plus rushing yard games to end the season, but you saw when they play kind of the higher level elite teams, right? What happened in the last week against the Packers. Right? It wasn't even close. And they were playing for their playoff lives, right? They backed into the playoffs because, they lost and got into the playoffs, which is rare. So as much as it pains me to say, the Saints are going to win this game, but it's going to be closer than you think. I think I had the game 28-23, I think, something like that is what I had. So probably like a 4 or 5 point game. I think 10
and I'm
points
with you on
much.
both. I'm with you on both. I think I'm with you. The Saints, just their defense this year is really their storyline. Their defense is very good. Davis in the middle of that defense. Getting Jenkins over from Philadelphia, that was huge for them. And then also the pass rush. Both defensive ends have played well. I'm drawing a blank right now. Both of them have played very well for the Saints. And my thing is, if the Bears can get to Drew Brees is a guy who's coming off that rib injury. He gets hit a couple times in those rib areas by Khalil Mack. Maybe you don't step on that up in that pocket to make that throw later on in the game. That's what I think is the big key. Can the Bears put the pressure on Drew Brees and stop Kamara? Because Kamara, he's not great between the tackles running the football. What he's great at is getting out of the backfield and creating plays for that offense. He is so good in that aspect. He may be the best running back I've seen in the last 10 years outside when he's not running the football, what he does to the offense, catching screens, catching balls, check downs, things like that, and creating. That's what Kamara is so good at. So I think I'm with you on this. I think it could be, maybe a 28-21 type game, 28-24. I'm with you on the Saints, but Bears, I think 10 points for a playoff, that's just a lot of points. And with all due respect, the Bears did play, Aaron Rodgers and the Packers last week, who are just on a roll right now. Right. So you can't fault the Bears too much for losing that game. I picked the Packers last week in that game for my show. So I just feel like the Bears stick around, and maybe you see some Trubisky keeps, maybe some options, some read options, which they haven't done much. Like you said, I heard him last week talking. He ran one time against the Packers on a read option.
Yeah, maybe and that's something they miss. That's something they miss. Yeah, and to your point on Kamara, it's interesting. In their first matchup, Kamara didn't rush for 100 yards. I think he had like 75, 80 yards, but he had, I think, 86 or 92, something in that range, just under 100 yards receiving. So that's the part that hurts him. You brought up an interesting point, because previously I'd said the only chance the Bears really have is, if a bunch of Saints players get COVID. However, I think it's interesting if they do get to Brees. You never want anyone to get hurt, but if they do get to Brees and he has to come out, it's interesting here because they would be better suited to bring in Winston than Taysom Hill, who they've typically gone to, because if Taysom Hill, they become a running-oriented team, and I think the Bears are better suited to stop the run. If they bring in Winston, what has been their weakness? You saw last week, right? Just wide open, those big plays. That defense keeps getting killed by those big plays, and that would be interesting. I don't think it's going to happen. Like I said, I think Drew Brees, he's in it. I think if he's healthy, right? I think they get Michael Thomas back. It's a lot to stop on that offense.
Yeah. So we're agree on that one as well. So I want to go to my next pick real quick. Last game of the week. Sorry, my headphone went out for a second. All right, Browns Steelers. Okay, so this is the COVID kind of issue right here. Stefanski's out. They got two other coaches on the offensive side out. Also will be without a few offensive linemen, I believe. This is tough for the Browns, who haven't been to the playoffs in 20 years. The Steelers played the Browns pretty close last week in a game that didn't mean anything for the Steelers, meant everything to the Cleveland Browns. So this is tough for me. The Steelers sit right now at -6 point favorite. I think that this could be about a touchdown type game. I'm rolling with the Steelers and Big Ben with this one. I just don't think that Big Ben goes out. I think that this really could be Big Ben's last year. If not last year, he maybe has one more year left. But what they're able to do, if they can run the football versus Cleveland front seven, I feel like they're going to have a good game. If they're not able to run the ball and Big Ben comes one dimensional, and you're having Myles Garrett and this defense come after them every play, every snap, they're passing, then that's when the Steelers could be in some trouble. But I just think that they're going to be able to run the football a little bit. They're going to be able to create some plays. They have plenty of weapons with Washington and Johnson and Juju Smith-Schuster and Claypool. I mean, they got plenty of options. And then this Pittsburgh defense, even though they've lost some people, they still got Watt. They still got Minkah Fitzpatrick. So look for one of them to make a big play in this game when it really matters the most. I'm going Browns. I'm going Steelers 30. I'm going Steelers 30-23. So I got them covering by just a point. But I'll take the Steelers on this one -6. What do you think about this game?
So someone who knows this team a lot better than I do.
Yeah.
Right. I do the coach and AK experience with Coach Hugh Jackson. And we had a long discussion about this one. And right before actually that game between the Browns and the Steelers, I asked him, I said, are the Browns cursed? Right? Because if they lose, they could be a 10-win Browns team that doesn't make the playoffs. And he assured me that they would win and make the playoffs. And he was right. And so when he said that the loss of a head coach, the loss that they've had to their team. And here's the big one that I didn't really think about. When you look at times when Mike Tomlin has played a team, typically it's Baltimore, sometimes Cincinnati, 3 times in a season, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Steelers rarely, if ever, lose that playoff game. They know them so well. So this is more about what I think the Steelers are going to do versus what the Browns don't do, right? I don't think the stage is too big for Baker at this point. I think he's shown that, to his critics, he can step up, he can play. He's not, he's not the other quarterback they drafted high, that Manziel kid. Like he's a quarterback.
He can make some plays.
He can make some plays, yeah. And so I think it's still the Steelers' game to lose. I think the Steelers they have too many weapons. I'm going with the veteran quarterback at home, right, versus the up-and-coming team. I think the other part that kind of rubbed me the wrong way about the Browns was when they won that game and made the playoffs, they celebrated like a little too much. I know that sounds weird, but it looked like they'd already won their game. And I'm worried that they have a letdown because they were just so happy to get that monkey off their back to make the playoffs. I think they're going to be a good team next year too. And I think some of them might already be thinking next year. So I think Steelers, I had actually similar score. I have 32-23. So I do have them covering. I have the Steelers winning. But yeah, it's too bad. I'd like to see what the Browns could do, but I think it's a bad matchup to be playing a division team third time. It's tough.
If Stefanski was coaching, I'd probably like Cleveland to cover.
Yeah,
that's just. I feel like that's big. That's got to be a couple points difference. I mean, a head coach who came in and changed the culture, got the Browns to the playoffs in his first season. He's not getting enough credit for Coach of the Year. I think he should win Coach of the Year. He got Cleveland to the championship. to the playoffs. And what he's been able to do with Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield is a lot better quarterback when he gets outside the pocket. Okay, he makes plays outside the pocket. When he stays in the pocket, he's a mediocre quarterback. When he gets outside the pocket, he's above average quarterback. So I really like Baker Mayfield. I just, in this one, Stefanski's not there. They're dealing with some COVID issues. Haven't practiced this week. It'd be hard for me to pick the Browns over the Steelers. So I'm rolling with the Steelers -6 on this one as well. So here's what we agree on. We agree on Bills -6.5. We agree on the Titans +3.5. We agree on Bears +10 and Steelers -6. So we agree on 4 games. The 2 games we don't agree on, you say Bucks -8. I got Washington -8, and then I'll take Seahawks -3. You got Rams +3. So we're pretty much we're pretty much in agreement on most of the games. And man, Anthony, it should be a good match. I can't wait to watch all these games this weekend. And then not only then you got the Packers and Chiefs coming in next week to the play. So man, it's going to be an exciting time, and it's so refreshing to get through the entire season. We're in the playoffs. A lot of people didn't know if we were going to be having a season right now. So, just got to take it all in this weekend, and someone's going to lose. And one of these teams that we think is going to win will lose. It happens every single year in the wild card. One of these teams we think is going to win. We may lose. So we'll see what happens, guys. But hey, thank y'all so much for joining me tonight. Me and Anthony K. Man, tell them where they can find some of your shows, man. You do a show with Hugh Jackson, former coach in the NFL. That's pretty neat. Tell them where they can find some of your stuff, and then we can go from there, man.
Yeah, we do two shows. One's called the Sports Fluent Podcast, and the other is the Coach and AK Experience with Coach Hugh Jackson. You can find them both at sportsfluent.com.